Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I'm Kevin Kietzman, in with you until the Vince Show comes your way at 11 o'clock. It is National Bomb Pop Day. Yes, indeed, our favorite summertime treat, which was born in Kansas City 70 years ago today, celebrating its anniversary. They always celebrate National Bomb Pop Day the last Thursday of June, and it was 70 years ago today that D.S. Abernathy and James Merritt in Kansas City invented the bomb pop during the Cold War, and the rest, as they say, is history. It features 6 fins. It's red, white, and blue. They now come in 9 flavors, and they're owned by the people that own the Blue Bunny ice cream out of Iowa, the Wells Company or whatever it's called. So happy birthday to the bomb pop. It seems fitting, as we had a Pentagon briefing today talking about bombs that we dropped on Iran. And we have one giant bomb from the state of Kansas. As Pete Mundo reported earlier today, there will be an extension on the star bonds by the state of Kansas. And this is the first ginormous mistake by either side of the state lines. Now, there were a couple of smaller mistakes. We've seen Kansas City and Jackson County botch their way through a lot of this, but it was still on the table. There still votes could be had, except for one thing. Kansas was going to give a deadline, and there was no chance to vote after the deadline. And so the only leverage Kansas has, well, they've got 2. They may think they have the best deal. They've got 70% they're offering, which is more than what they've got in Missouri right now, which is 50. But the second you extend this for 1 year, because that's the only way it can be done, the Chiefs and Royals will never believe you, even if you send them a memorandum and it says, hey, it's a 30-day negotiating period, and that's our deadline, whatever. It won't matter. The star bond is still extended for a year. And the Chiefs and Royals aren't stupid like Kansas politicians. And these are mostly Republicans. You've blown your chance to get these teams by extending this. You're blowing it. If you can, and that's all you tell them right now, I need a letter of intent by June 30th. And we'll enter this into the record. We'll go forward and we'll work on the deal. I need a letter of intent that you're moving to Kansas. Nothing short of that is any good. If Kansas extends a year, each team can put a vote on the ballot. They can start negotiating with Jackson County to get on a ballot, Kansas City, Missouri, Clay County, wherever they want. So Kansas, you're getting worked over. Now, maybe they're doing it because they're on the outside looking in. Maybe they're thinking we're not getting either of these teams. Somebody whose glass is half full may say, well, they think they have one of the teams, but they can't get the deal done by June 30th, so they're going to need some more time afterwards. If Kansas believes that, if the officials in Kansas believe they have a deal with a team, and it's just going to take another few weeks to get it ironed out and signed so they can just go forth and do this, you're idiots. You're clowns. You're fools. That is not the way sports teams work. Sports teams will abuse you every chance you get. And your sign of weakness, they smell it. They smell the fear in the state of Kansas right now with a 1-year extension on the star bonds. You've blown it. There will be no negotiating in good faith at this point. They've got a year. They've got plenty. The lease goes through 2030. They've still got time to put more votes on the ballot. The Chiefs believe they'll pass their own vote in Jackson County if they put one on the ballot for just football. Their polling shows that it will pass. The Royals polling shows that most of theirs don't pass. But they've also commissioned new polling in Clay County that they hadn't had before, and surveys and trying to figure out there, which is fine. I can't tell you where they're going. I don't know what they're doing. And I'm like a lot of people. I'm getting exhausted to where I really don't care. And Kansas has just done the dumbest possible thing they could possibly do. And they may wind up with a team. To me, this just says, We're desperate. We're absolutely in desperation. We're going to extend this thing and hope that something good happens for us. You don't extend this when you are, like if Donald Trump were negotiating on behalf of Kansas, and we saw him, extend, I think John said earlier, 2 weeks with Iran, and then 3 days later he bombed them. We see how that works, okay? But if he were working on behalf of Kansas, he'd say, you have to do this by June 30th or we're letting the star bonds expire. It's over. Good luck in Missouri. Kansas leverage was there's no vote available by the deadline. they cannot fully guarantee themselves, the Royals and Chiefs, that they're going to get 20% more funding from the county or the city without going to the voters. They can't guarantee themselves that. We can sit here and talk about Port KC all we want, coming up with money, or Mayor Quentin Lucas and his rental car money and all this other stuff. A bird in the hand. 70% in Kansas is 70%. You've got 50% in Missouri if local and county officials kick money in too. If. Otherwise, the Missouri money, you don't even get that. No, Kansas had a hammer. They had a negotiating hammer, and they just dropped it and said, oh, whatever you like. You want to talk about calling a truce? Yeah, they broke the truce with Missouri all right, and then they just waved the white flag. It's a clown show in Kansas. I'll just go ahead and say it. They don't deserve to get either team. If you don't understand the ruthless nature of professional sports, the owners that own the teams, and the presidents and people they put in charge of their operations, you're probably not fit for office, but there seems to be a lot of that in America. A lot of people in government that really aren't fit for the real world where the hard work gets done. The Chiefs and Royals will use this to their advantage at every single turn. And maybe you get lucky and somewhere down the road, the teams say, well, Missouri still didn't come through. We didn't get what we wanted in Missouri, and there's a better offer in Kansas. But that's just hoping. You're just sitting back now and hoping. You've kicked the door wide open for anything that's possible in Missouri to be confirmed by these teams because you've extended this. I can't overstate what a clown show this is for the people of Kansas. And if you're a Kansan and you're listening and you were rooting for the Chiefs, the Royals to move to Kansas, thinking that'd be a pretty cool thing, it would have been a pretty cool thing. The Star Bonds have worked, despite what a lot of people say. Speedway was paid off 7 years early. Sporting Park is paid off. Everything's paid off out there. I don't think the water park area is because they had the tragic death and the thing's been tied up in court for many years. And there's a new owner there, the Margaritaville Hotel. So there may still be some Star Bonds attached to that area. But they've worked. They've been paid off. And now Kansas are collecting sales tax every single day on money that gets spent there. And it goes to Topeka. And it helps lower your taxes in Kansas where there is a budget surplus because things like this have worked. But I don't see how this works. I don't see how you dance with these teams this long and get to this point and have the complete and utter upper hand, unless somebody in Kansas wants to come forward with a news conference and say, look what I got right here. This is a letter from one of the teams. They're promising to move to Kansas. They need 30 more days to finalize a contract. We've got a memorandum understanding that this is going to be done by July 25th, 26th, or whatever the date is. We're extending 30 days with them, and they're promising to come if we meet this, this, and this. Short of that, you're just getting played. You're just getting worked. And this isn't unique to Kansas City. We're going through a real struggle on this issue, and it drives people crazy. People in Kansas City do care about this issue, but we're exhausted. And the politicians in Kansas have just exacerbated the entire situation, making it worse. They're almost assuredly dragging this out for more and more months. And we're going to get very vague information. I was really optimistic we were going to learn some stuff in the next week or two. Get really good ideas of what the Royals and Chiefs want to do. Because we were told, the numerous politicians in Kansas said, oh, we can extend the thing, but if we do, it would only be for a couple weeks or 30 days. No. Now they looked at the fine print. The only way to extend it is for a year. And you can tell the Royals and Chiefs you're only extending for 30 days, but they're not going to believe you. They're going to know better than that. They're going to know that if their vote fails in November or April of next year, whenever it is, you'll come crawling back with your 70% Star Bond. They know you will because you're soft and you're pathetic and you let the people in your state down. You had the upper hand and you handed it away. If that's not a truce between states, I don't know what is. You just handed Missouri a gift. I'm not a believer in this truce. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I think every state in America should compete. I believe America was founded as a collection of states with one federal body that's not supposed to interfere with the states very much. That's what I believe. And I don't believe it's any different if you're a politician in Kansas stealing a business from Missouri or stealing one from California. It makes no difference. None whatsoever. Take it. You would put Missouri in a place where they had to come up with the money. They were going to lose all of this sales tax revenue no matter what. They were either going to lose it to Kansas or they're going to lose it to the teams. Missouri's already, you had them on the ropes with all this money where Missouri was losing the sales tax revenue no matter what. They matched what you did. That's a huge concession in Missouri. They were losing hundreds of millions of dollars, just giving it away, saying we have to give this to the teams, otherwise we're giving it to Kansas. And we'd rather give it to the teams than Kansas. So Missouri had already lost. You got them on the ropes if we're talking about a border war here. And now you just handed it right back to them. There's not a clown car small enough to make you guys look ridiculous. Insane. 913-408-7957. That's 40. How in the world did they get away with lying to everyone in the media that they could extend this for a shorter period of time, and then it turns out that's against the rules of the Star Bonds? Anybody want to backtrack on that and say, oh, I was wrong, I'm sorry? Or do you just want to come out and say, well, we were lying? Yeah, you know who didn't fall for it? I mean, a lot of people did. I'm going to bet the lawyers and the team presidents for the teams didn't fall for that. I'm going to bet they knew before you did, politicians. You are getting worked so hard. 913-408-7957, the number to call if you'd like to join the discussion. We got a fun show lined up today. I've got some other great topics, including the story from the Pentagon today of the soldiers in the air base in Qatar as the missiles were coming in. They cleared that thing out, but they left a couple dozen soldiers behind that were aged 21 to 28. You won't believe what they had to do and what the Army decided to do with that base, knowing that these missiles were going to be coming in. It's unbelievable. Some great stuff ahead on Uncanceled. This is KCMO Talk Radio.
From the nation's heartland, it's Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
All right, so the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, had a news conference earlier today. That's what Trump wants to call him. He says, we're politically correct. We changed the title of the position from Secretary of War to Secretary of Defense, and he wants to put it back to Secretary of War. Just because he likes pushing everybody's buttons, and why not? And the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Raisin Kane, you got a Secretary of War and a guy named Raisin Kane in charge of the military. I love it. They had their news conference at the Pentagon today, and this almost feels like if you protest too much, you might be covering something up. They showed some video of different things and the bunker busters and stuff in action, and not exactly from this strike, but from tests and things like that, and went through it all. But the part that was really interesting that came out of this news conference was when the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Raisin Kane, was talking about the missiles that came flying from Iran toward the airbase in Qatar. And yes, we had warning. And with the warning, what they decided to do on that airbase, that's the United States' largest airbase in the Middle East, in the entire region. It's big. Qatar's a country of about 3 million people, and they're really rich. Like, that's the richest 3 million people anywhere. They're loaded. They largely like to stay out of things, but they really like being protected by the United States. They try to play both sides of things, but mostly they're in the real world, selling oil, making money, and having a good quality of life, for the most part. So we left behind somewhere between 2 and 4 dozen soldiers. He said, I think maybe like 40, 44 soldiers we left behind. Every single one of them, this is how ruthless the military is. They left the youngest behind, the lowest in the chain of command behind. They were not in a million years going to give Iran some victory over killing the commanding general or something like that. You know, we have these things in the Navy that the captain goes down with his ship, and if you in a war, the general's out front, and they could be killed too. That's not the decision that was made here. The decision that was made was we are not giving Iran any kind of a victory. If there's a mishap here and one of these things lands and somebody dies, it's not going to be the commander of this airbase. They left behind basically 3 dozen kids aged 21 to 28. And apparently the person in charge was a 25-year-old that is described as the tactical director in the command center of this airbase. A 25-year-old young man is the tactical director. That's not a general. That's not a colonel. It's not a tactical director here. And this person had 2 minutes to make the call on the anti-missile launchers being launched, and did so flawlessly. Now, nobody in the military is surprised by that. They select people for a reason. They know what the job is and what to do. They were left with very specific instructions that if the things start flying at us, you're to shoot them out of the sky. But once they got airborne and whatever, there's about a 2-minute window. They have to be within a certain range from when you fire your things up that they're going to connect and it's going to work. So we had I'll say kid. We always say it with athletes, right? Jack Caglione plays for the Royals. He's a kid, right? Bobby Witt Jr. is a kid. We always say that. They're not really kids. But a 25-year-old was in charge of shooting down all those missiles. That's awesome. 14 for 14, got every stinking one of them. 21 to 28-year-olds. They did not describe whether it was men and women. I don't know that. But that's what happened at that air base in Qatar, which I just think is really cool. I'm always so proud of our military. And I get disappointed or upset when things happen that you scratch your head and say, well, how should they happen? We had Kelly Campbell Goodnow in earlier this week. She's a Gold Star spouse. Her husband died in that terrible Marine helicopter crash in Hawaii almost 10 years ago, where we lost 12 Marines. The choppers crashed and went down, and they were just doing exercises and practice, and you scratch your head and go, how in the world does this happen? We saw the American Airlines thing happen over the Potomac, where the training, the pilot being trained in the Black Hawk helicopter slammed into the jet, and we don't understand how those things happen. These are dangerous jobs. We just saw 2 things over the weekend and this week far more difficult to execute flawlessly than a training exercise, which is what those 2 incidents I just described to you, that makes them no less tragic or deadly or difficult. Not saying any of this is easy, but we know you can't be perfect. In this case, this week, when it mattered most, we were perfect. And it does bother me that there are media outlets trying to describe it as something less than that. Whatever the capabilities of those bombs are, those bunker busters, that's what was executed. If you want to write a story and say, are the bunker busters all that as weaponry, I'll listen to that all day. But to say something didn't work, like the military made some kind of a mistake and it wasn't successful, it's not just what it does with the B-2 pilots here at Whiteman, it's what it does for Iran. If you don't think that the Ayatollah, and the leaders in Iran right now are jamming CNN and the New York Times reporting down the throats of their citizens that these things were not effective, then you don't understand war, international politics, conflicts, and things of this nature. As much as anything else, CNN and the New York Times were emboldening Iran to continue hating Israel and kill, and emboldening the people against the United States and Donald Trump. Because these people are scum, as Donald Trump says. They literally are rooting against America because Donald Trump is president. And if they can report these things, and I failed to mention this on yesterday's show, and I feel like I really let you down by not bringing it up, and probably not a lot of people want to talk about it, but it definitely emboldens Iran. It empowers them. It gives them all kinds of propaganda to give to their citizens. They had a huge rally. The Ayatollah came out of his hole. He did a little bit of a speech. They've got all these people in the streets. They've got people on the chamber of their house, their parliament in Iran, chanting. They're elected leaders, well, not really elected, but appointed leaders, whatever the hell they are there, chanting death to America on the floor of their house. Can you imagine at the U.S. Capitol chanting, death to Iran, everybody getting together and doing that? I mean, it's not that I would hate it, but it wouldn't be right. It's not the right thing for them to be doing. That's what they're doing there. And they're getting this reporting from America. And they're saying, don't believe us. Believe CNN and the New York Times that say this didn't work. Yeah, they dropped some bombs on our nuclear facilities. It didn't work. They're telling their people that their nuclear program is still up and running. And they block so much information in Iran, those people don't know any different. It's not a free country. They don't get to make their own choices and decisions, and they don't know what's going on in the world. It's a shame. But today we salute those 40 or so soldiers on that air base that were 21 to 28 years old. Mom and Dad left for the weekend, but we got the house. The Pirates in the Palace are taking care of this one. This is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio. We're going to continue right after the news on 95.7.
from Leawood to Liberty. It's Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
We're back on Uncanceled, KCMO Talk Radio. Our phone number, if you'd like to join today, have something to say, let's hear it, 913-408-7957. Coming up, is Cooper Flagg the next Caitlin Clark? Ooh, I got some tasty thoughts on that. But first, we go to the phones, and we have Jason on the line from Manhattan. Good morning, Jason. How are you?
Good morning, Kevin. I'm doing great. How are you this morning?
Fine, thank you.
Well, I just wanted to say we call them kids, those soldiers, airmen in Qatar. We praise them for doing such a great job, and we absolutely do. But they are well-trained, experienced, and determined in what they do. I was in the Army for 10 years as a Chinook helicopter pilot, and there was, I call him a kid, that I went through with who started flight school at 18. He turned 19 in the middle of our flight school. 6 months later, they've got him in the pilot seat of an Apache gunship. He's got his finger on the trigger of 30-millimeter cannon, Hellfires, and rockets, ready to do his job. And so we are well-trained. We're young. Yeah, we're kids, but ready to go. Absolutely got to love them.
That is awesome.
Praise on them.
Yeah, and I hope I came across as saying the exact same thing. I got a question for you about young pilots. Are they better suited today at a younger age than they used to be because of video games?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that helicopter pilots just kind of want to be that way. They're kind of born with that attitude and that we'll call it hand-eye coordination. Yes, we like to put hand-eye coordination with video games. It's a great way to justify what they're doing, what the kids are doing. But just in general, maybe it helps a little bit, but I don't think so. It's a very different feel being up in that helicopter at the controls.
Okay, yeah, they probably take to the simulator pretty easily, but maybe not necessarily in the helicopter. What about drone pilots? I've heard that the military recruits kids that are actually great gamers and tries to get them into the military to fly the drones.
I can't speak to the UAS side of things.
Yeah,
I wish I could.
That's
well out of my lane.
No, I know, but I'm thinking if I was like 16 and really good at video games, some of these flight games and things like that, that'd be a pretty cool job to have. Be one of those guys. They're in Nevada, right? Aren't they in the desert of Nevada controlling all the drones?
Well, the Air Force, our Army here at least here at Fort Riley, here in Kansas, they've got their own drones right here that they operate from the ground. Now, they may hand them off to another operator in a different state as they're transitioning from transcontinental kind of thing. But no, for the most part, they're right here controlling locally.
That's so awesome. Well, God bless you. Thank you for your service and all the great work, and we appreciate you shouting out to the boys and maybe even ladies that were in Qatar. They did a great job this week for sure.
Kevin, it's been a pleasure and honor to serve you and all the Kansans and all the United States citizens are worth it.
Thank you, sir. You have a great day.
You too, Kevin.
Outstanding. That's Jason in Manhattan. I mean, seriously. It's just the finest people. They're just the finest people. That's just great. All right, on to something that I definitely wanted to talk about today, and that is I wasn't spending a lot of time watching the NBA draft last night. It's not my thing. But this was, as Pete pointed out last hour, the first time in almost 50 years that a white American was drafted number one into the NBA. You've heard me talk on Uncanceled previously about Caitlin Clark, who came out of college a couple of years ago and was easily the best college basketball player, and she's a white American girl, and she has gone on to the WNBA, and she is the WNBA. She's the star of the league. It's not close. There's no close. The close second would be her teammate, probably Sophie Cunningham from Mizzou, because now she's a viral sensation because, well, among other things, she's gorgeous, and she's on social media being beautiful. And she's an enforcer out on the floor, which is kind of fun. But the WNBA has resisted Caitlin Clark. She's out again tonight. She has another injury tonight. They have beaten her up on the court. They have knocked her around. They are not suspending players for overly physical play. There have been calls of racism by black players from fans, basically saying these white people that are coming in here to see Caitlin, to watch the WNBA has been failing for 20 years. Caitlin comes along, it's like, oh my God, these teams are going to make a profit and they're going to get a new TV contract. And the player salaries are going to go up. So what do they do to her? This is like when Tiger Woods came on the golf tour. Well, they embraced Tiger. They said, great, let's make it about Tiger. Fine. Did a couple of the players out there, maybe not like him because he was so good? Yeah, but all the purses and salaries were going up, so they dealt with it. They didn't try to hurt him. This isn't figure skating. Nancy Kerrigan going out there and getting crushed. So that's what they're doing to Caitlin Clark. They're resisting her. It is, by definition, the WNBA is a liberal, far-left, racist league. It is. It's rooted in all of the old stereotypes that Obama has forced on us for 20 years and became, they just became, things that were not true became fact in America because Barack Obama said it. And if Barack Obama said this is the way we can talk, this is the way we can think, this is the way we are, and that we're an inherently racist nation and white people are bad, then that just sort of became what we were until Trump came along and gave us permission to say, you know what, we never agreed with that anyway. I never agreed that I'm a bad person. I never agreed that I hate minorities. I never agreed on any of this stuff that we believe that is being forced on us. I don't believe in DEI. I don't believe in all these other things. And we've watched it change in a lot of places over the last few years. And we've seen in the last few months since Trump took over, we've seen a lot of things happen where corporations have said, we're just dropping DEI. The federal government's after companies that have DEI, we're out. We don't want anybody peeking into our business, we're out. So it's fading away. But the huge question now is, what will the NBA do with Cooper Flagg? The NBA do with Cooper Flagg? This is one of those, especially if you're a Kansas fan, one of these really sappy stories. All right, this guy went to Duke, so you immediately hate him, which is fine. But there's nothing to not like. His mother wore number 32 in high school because that was Christian Laettner's number at Duke. And so now Cooper Flagg can wear 32 in the NBA because of Christian Laettner and his mom and Duke and all these things. It's like the whitest white boy story ever. And he's the best player on the planet right now. He's a complete player. And everybody that knows a lot more about the NBA than I do says the Dallas Mavericks will be a very good team very fast. And the television ratings will likely explode when Cooper Flagg plays. And the tickets will cost more. And places that don't sell out will sell out when Cooper Flagg comes to town. What's the NBA going to do? Remember, the NBA owns the WNBA. It's the same collection of owners, the same vision, the same LeBron James taking a knee, turning his back on the flag, all the things that we've seen in the NBA, all of the anti-American rhetoric, America's awful from the NBA that we've seen. We've watched this league go down over the last few years. What will they do now? They've been given a lifeline to tens of millions of people. When I was a kid, I loved the NBA. The Kings were here. We had Sam Lacey and Otis Birdsong and Tiny Archibald and Scott Wedman, and it was fun and it was cool to go. And my dad hated the Chicago Bulls, and that was well before Michael Jordan. Their coach was named Dick Motta, and he'd make a sign. We'd go to a Kings game. It was like $2 to go, and he'd hold up a sign. Said, you spell Motta with 2 T's. He wanted him ejected every time they came to town. The Kings were good, and it was fun until they moved. Not enough people thought that, apparently. But there's room for that. There's room for more watching of the NBA. When I watch it, it's an unwatchable product. I think the court needs to be longer and wider, and the basket needs to be a little higher. It's a crowded sport where you can't touch anybody. You got to let them go by you, or they'll call you for a foul, and you won't make it to the end of the game. And there's so many games that not any game really matters that much. It's mostly an exhibition. You're waiting for a dunk, and you can get the big fancy dunk on Twitter without watching the whole game. So I don't know what the NBA will do. I know what they'll do if they're smart. If they're smart, they'll embrace him. If he's conservative, which you would think he may be, and the odds are decent just that he's a white male, then add that he went to Duke. Let's just keep piling on the things here to check off and say, well, there's a chance he's conservative. He is. They ought to wrap this guy in the American flag and let him talk all day about Trump. And then they better make sure that the other players don't cheap shot him. That's what they ought to do. They ought to try to bring it back in, especially since he's going to play deep in the heart of Texas for the Dallas Mavericks. What better place for America's new face of the NBA, Cooper Flagg, to play? What do I think will happen? I think sports are different than regular business. Sports owners feel invincible always. We can't lose. We're a sports franchise. If all else fails, the government gives us money. We can't go under. This will always work. And this is our playground. I made billions of dollars doing something else. This is my fun. and I'm liberal and I like this, my guess is he's going to get the Caitlin Clark treatment. That, yes, Cooper Flagg could be the next Caitlin Clark. We'll know soon enough. Their offseason isn't very long. It's only a couple months long. They'll be practicing here in a couple of months, and he'll be out there on the floor. And if he gets knocked around and beaten up, and it's more than just, hey, rookie, hey, number one pick, whatever, if the league doesn't like him because the white boy American got drafted number one in the draft, these are conversations we couldn't have even had on the radio 10 years ago. We're in so much better place that we can actually talk about these things and ask these questions and analyze what's happened to Caitlin Clark and say, are they going to do this with Cooper Flagg now? This is no joke. There is a chance that after one season in the WNBA, that the most popular player in the WNBA and the most popular player in the NBA are white Americans. That is absolutely a possibility. It's already done with the Women's League. That's done. And I still think she's crazy if she doesn't go start her own league. Cooper Flagg can't do that. He's not going to get that option to go start his own league. He's not exactly Caitlin Clark in that way. But the reason Caitlin Clark can do it is because the WNBA has never been anything. The NBA is established. It's rooted. 17 million people watched the final game on Sunday night. So he's got a different chore ahead of him. That league is his meal ticket. That's it for him. There's no starting his own thing. I think they're going to treat him like crap. I think the players are going to be hard to accept him. Except for the guys that played at Duke. Most players from all the other colleges hate Duke anyway. I can't wait to see this unfold. This is fun. This is pop some popcorn, sit back and watch and enjoy and see what happens with Cooper Flagg.
And having Kyrie Irving as a teammate will be good for him because Kyrie's a former Duke guy, right?
Yeah, isn't Kyrie the guy that sat out during COVID?
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't take the shot?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kyrie's conservative.
So
Black conservative. Kyrie's conservative.
So
Black
I think
conservative.
having him as a teammate will be good, I think.
Fantastic. That's a black conservative teammate. Outspoken, right? Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
That's an excellent nugget. I can't wait to see what happens. Do you have a feel for what you think the WNBA will do or the NBA will do with this guy?
I think they'll let his rookie season play out. If he wins Rookie of the Year, I think he'll continue to grow, but I don't think they're going to pick on him necessarily.
Do you think if he got knocked around like Caitlin Clark, there will be suspensions or ejections or they'll deal with the players differently than the Women's League?
I do. I think they would.
I hope you're right. I don't know. It's the same people that run the same leagues, right?
Yeah. Different refs, though.
Yep. They probably – there's enough big stars in the NBA. Each team has a mega star that sees themselves as one of the top 3 or 4 players in the league. Even though that's not true. It's not possible. There's 30 teams or whatever. So the best player on each team believes he's in the top 3 or 4 in the league. So that probably helps. I don't think they really have that in the WNBA. I think they all show up knowing that she's the star, and they're not. And that really hasn't happened in the NBA since Michael Jordan. Have there been better players than Jordan or great players? Yes. LeBron James, great players. Steph Curry, great players. Kobe Bryant, great players. All great players. But when Michael Jordan was in the league, it was Michael Jordan's league. It was his league, and everybody knew it was his league. And that's the heyday, man. When you have that real star that transcends team sports and becomes such an iconic individual figure, and the Chiefs have got some of this going. You know, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, there isn't much they can do that everyone in America doesn't know when they're doing it. Kelce certainly because of the Taylor Swift thing, but that's when it all transcends from just being a team sport to these figures, these individual figures are so iconic, you know what they're doing at all times. That used to be the case with LeBron James. It's not anymore because half the country turned their back on him. They've figured out what he is. He couldn't defend or back up his positions. He was just repeating things people told him that supposedly were right because Obama said them, and we found out he's not very smart. And so that hurt him. Michael Jordan, for his life, his career, basically stayed out of that stuff. Let his basketball greatness do it. And there's something to that. I can't wait to see what happens. Can you imagine if we're sitting here a year from now, like the best player in both leagues is a white American kid? Simply amazing. All right, we got more coming up for Mark and some more good topics. If you'd like to join us, we got open phone lines. 408-7957 is the number to call. 913-408-7957. Uncanceled continues on KCMO Talk Radio. All right, Best Offer KC is proud to be a sponsor of Uncanceled on KCMO, and I'm proud to speak about their great company. I've gotten to know not just Mark, but his team at Best Offer and what they're all about. I think I've mentioned a couple times, one of the gentlemen that he has go to your home when you're looking to sell fast and take a look at it and appraise it and make the actual offer is a former pastor. And he believes what he's doing right now is just as meaningful, helping people in tough situations get a break because they really need a break. When something bad happens, when you got to go, when something's changed in your life, whether it's health, personal, financial, whatever it may be, all you want is somebody compassionate and understanding. And you want that offer, and you want the offer to be good. And if you accept the offer, you want that money and get it done. And that's what Best Offer is all about. Man, if you can't trust a former pastor coming into your house, telling you what the scoop is here, and being compassionate with you, and sometimes even consoling or, counseling or praying with somebody in a bad situation, that's just a great company. And that's what Mark has built at Best Offer KC. He's got absolute professionals around him, an entire team that understands that they're dealing with people every day that are in a bit of a jam, one way or another. If you know somebody like this that needs to sell a house, please have them work with the professionals at bestofferkc.com. It makes a huge difference. Bestofferkc.com. 338-SOLD. The number is 338-SOLD. Bestofferkc.com is helping you leave the hassle behind.
From Overland Park to Oak Grove, it's Kevin Kietzman Uncanceled on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Good to be back. Let's have some fun with Mark. We'll start with a little celebrity news. Everybody loves a little celebrity news. Do you remember the television show 2.5 Men?
Oh, yeah.
John Cryer, who played Charlie Sheen's brother on that show, right? John Cryer has posted on social media that Trump has given Iran every reason to build a nuclear bomb.
Okay.
I mean, and then he said Trump is more dangerous for America than Al-Qaeda. I don't know what happens to these people. I really don't. He says Trump broke the deal. And my question is, what deal? He extended the deadline and then said it's may or may not within 2 weeks. And then he did what he did. I don't know what deal we had with Iran. That's crazy. We all like 50 Cent, right? We like 50, the music star. He's from St. Louis, correct? Curtis Jackson?
Yeah.
Is that his name? Is he from St. Louis?
I don't know if he's from St.
Tech Nine's from here, right? Tech Nine, Kansas City?
Tech Nine's from KC.
I think 50's from St. Louis. Okay. I think that's right. He is not happy with what the Democrats have chosen in New York City for their mayoral candidate. Oh, Nelly's from St. Louis.
Nelly, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you, John. Where's Fitty from? Do we know? Curtis Jackson? He's not happy with Zoran Mambani, who is the Democrat nominee for mayor, because he's going to implement a new tax on people that make $1 million or more. And Curtis Jackson has just said, that seals it. He's moving. There are 350,000 millionaires in New York. New York City, not New York State, New York City.
He's from Queens, so he knows
Queens.
what he's talking
okay,
about.
There you go. Well, he's gone. If Mambani wins, he says he's out. He's not going to pay he says, I'm taxed enough. I'm out of here. Taxed enough. I'm out of here. 350,000 millionaires in New York City. If that Mambani wins, how many will still be living there after 4 years? They're going to move to Florida. I think it's coming. Did you hear that Tony Gonzalez is going to the Jeff Bezos wedding?
No, I did not hear that.
This is unbelievable, Mark. You're going to love this story. Jeff Bezos is in Venice getting married to Lauren Sanchez. They're having a little trouble with their wedding because there's protesters everywhere. People in Venice are disgusted that the billionaires of the world all come there. And what the protesters say of this is they say they basically turned it into their, personal playground. And we're tired of the billionaires coming here and doing this stuff. So they're mad at the billionaires to begin with. Now they've had to move a couple of the venues, not all, not the actual wedding venue, but a couple of the things around the wedding. They've moved for security reasons because of protesters. Tony Gonzalez, son Nico, he fathered with Lauren Sanchez, who's marrying Jeff Bezos. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So Tony Gonzalez has an 18-year-old son. He just graduated high school. Tony Gonzalez's wife is named October. There's a picture of Tony, October, and Nico, Nico's mom, Lauren, and Jeff Bezos, all together at the high school graduation. So the story says that Lauren and October have become dear friends. First of all, you can't be the guy that follows Tony Gonzalez. I mean, that's a handsome man now, right?
Uh-huh.
I guess if you're the richest guy in the world or second richest guy in the world, maybe you can follow Tony Gonzalez. Well, I mean, do you ever think you just visited family and stuff? We all think at a time or two our family's a little messed up.
Yeah.
What the heck is this?
That's a triangle right there.
And if I'm Tony Gonzalez, I'm like, yes, Lauren, yes, go marry him. Yes. We want to get invited everywhere.
And is Tony on the Amazon broadcast crew?
Yes.
So maybe
it's all making sense now.
Yeah.
Because he's not that good. To be honest, he doesn't add that much.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe Lauren got him on the payroll.
Nice-looking guy, yeah.
Absolutely. And a Hall of Famer, a great, great player. I'm not besmirching Tony Gonzalez in any way, but those are good friends to have. I would think the Bezos are good friends to have. And we don't like Jazz Chisholm, right? The Yankees, Royals fans hate him, Mark. See what Michael Kay, the Yankees announcer, said about him? He called him out for getting kicked out of a game. He was arguing a 2-0 strike call, but then he stayed on the umpire all the way into the next inning and got kicked out while he was in the field. And Michael Kay just basically said that's Bush League. He's calling out his own player, Jazz Chisholm. Ooh, the Royals are in a bad way. The Vince Show is coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio.